Hey guys, welcome back to Creating Careers Podcast. I'm really excited about today's episode. On today's episode, I had a chance to sit down and talk with the owner and operator of Birmingham Creative, Aaron Wilhite. Aaron was actually my first ever guest on Creating Careers Podcast. And I've told Aaron multiple times, I'm so sorry for the way that I performed on that very first episode. I was so nervous and had no real idea about what I was doing. But Aaron was so kind, so generous. And really, to be honest, if you know Aaron already, you know he's such a great guy and has a really dry and hilarious sense of humor, and is just a really great person to know and to talk with. And so on this episode, I sat down and out of respect for Aaron and all that he's done with Birmingham Creative, I threw it to him again and asked him some questions. We dived into some of the work that he's been doing recently, as well as just his background and experience. So without further ado, I'm really excited to share this episode with you. Check it out.
Well, I'm glad we get to bring it back to the original, right?
I'm telling you, that's what I'm so excited about today is to, first of all, pay respect to you as you took a really big chance with some moron, stupid idiot, moron. Those are the words of my old youth pastor. You took a chance with me and you stepped out and said, you know what, I'll be a part of this guy's podcast. And I really do appreciate that.
I mean, I am just an open book here. But no, it's always a pleasure. And dude, big kudos to you. You've had how many guests now? Like at least 20? Is more than that?
Yeah, it's been a little higher than that.
It shows you how much I keep up. I can't, or it shows you my counting skills, one or the other.
That's true. I think we're on episode. I should know this, but I think it's like episode in the like the 30s, maybe. Am I in the 30s?
And you've had some pretty big names.
Know this. I've been really amazed at the people that actually say yes. I mean, genuinely. It's not like that's not me being overly, I guess, flattering to the people that have been on. Like I genuinely have been over and above amazed at the quality of people that I'm getting on here.
Well, it's such a collaborative industry. I mean, we want to know the secrets as much as the next guy does. So it's kind of funny that everyone wants to be a part of the conversation. I actually appreciate that.
I agree. It's been a really fantastic community and just extremely kind people all across the board. Sorry, I was looking up. I'm like, I got to know. It's actually episode 40 was the last one that just went out. 41. And I'm behind. I missed the holidays. I didn't put any out during the holidays. And then I got sick this week. I was planning on.
Oh, cool. I got sick last week, so we're both here on the same boat.
Yeah. So last week I was really busy and didn't put one out. This week I was sick and didn't put one out. And so I feel very scattered starting the year off, but I'm excited. I tried to like change up, as you were sort of subject to. I tried to change up the method of my actual interviews. I was going to use what's called Riverside. And that did not go well for me. I think it's a good platform. I just think it doesn't allow for slides, not without upgrading to like business. And anyway, I just ran into issue after issue. I came back to Old Faithful. So StreamYard has worked well for me.
Looks good to me.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just a tiny 2-inch screen over here, but it looks great. I think it looks good.
Yeah. So you're not going to be able to see my slides at all whenever I pull those up.
I will. Yeah. No, I totally will.
Okay.
I tried to make it a point this time because I think last time I looked to the side too much, and I need to maintain eye contact with at least you, or I don't know. But I can see it. It's right here. It's right here. So pull up a slide and I'm ready for it.
Okay, good. I'm excited to delve into your slides. Last time we had some really good ones. And I might have dug back a little bit further into your past to find a few more. So.
It's all public information. So
yeah, that's what I love. I love social media for that very aspect. Like we archive our lives.
We really do.
And,
yes.
And sometimes it's even better when other people archive them for you, you know? And so if I can get like a mom or a sister or, you know, a grandmother or somebody like that, I mean, it seems like females end up sharing more about their family than guys do at times.
That's true.
But yeah, those sometimes you can really get some great content. So it makes it for a fun interview.
Oh boy.
I'm ready. All right. Well, I'm sorry. I'm also still getting over a bit of my cold, so I'm going to try not to be coughing into the mic all the time, but I can't guarantee
I'll be with you. We'll just be in unison coughing.
There you go.
And that's this whole podcast is going to be us just coughing, hacking up along.
Well, Aaron Wilhite, I'm so excited to jump into this with you. Again, thank you for being on Creating Creators podcast. You were the OG, the original, and I don't know that I looked back at that interview. I think you did great. I sounded like I had no idea what I was talking about.
Well, that makes two of us. I have learned throughout my career that confidence is the key no matter what you're saying out of your mouth. As long as you say it with confidence, you're good.
Well, you seemed very confident when you were speaking. I seemed very quiet and no personality to it. So I appreciate you carrying the weight of that first episode.
My back certainly hurts, I guess. Amongst other reasons.
There
it goes.
All right. So as I've already said, sort of welcome back.
I gotta enlarge this.
These aren't so bad.
That's way too big. Okay.
Yeah, we start off nice. You know, I treat you well at the beginning. So speaking of, I've just broken away from my full-time job. I don't know if you
you
knew
did.
that,
And you got some killer branding too. You got some killer branding.
I agree. Savvy with good. Sunspark. She's hit the note, man.
I want to make sure I give that shout out.
Definitely. And she's been she just did Dustin Harrelson's.
Dustin's looks good too. Her copy, I can't remember what it was, but it was like cooking up sizzling reels or something like that. I can't even remember what the copy was, but it was so good. I was slightly jealous. It was so good.
I was the same way. I'm like, it makes sense though. Like my brand, I think really fits my level of coolness, and his brand fits his level of coolness, which is significantly like there's a gap between us. Quite a bit.
To be fair, there's two different target audiences.
That's true.
I mean, you know, people in the education industry are not going to be looking at like, why does this company look like it's from the 70s and it's vintage and it's, you know, they want bold, they want stand out, they want this guy knows what he's doing kind of look.
There you go. They don't want to say we got hot stacks coming into the building today.
You know
that might look bad.
I bet someone would fund that though. Somebody in the school system, they would 100% give money to that.
Definitely.
Well, cool.
So, well, yeah, but I was going to say you did some headshots not too long ago, man.
Oh, well, yeah. Oh, I guess on the slide, yeah, I see that now. Yeah, my big shout out to Danielle. Danielle Hickman, as she goes, she just got married, so I don't know what her tag is now. That's kind of awkward. But she takes some great photos.
Mostly she's known as just Dan, is what I hear.
Dan, that's
Dan the photographer or something like that.
Danielle Photog. There it is. I guess it's still Danielle Photog.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, she takes incredible photos. That was when was that? I guess that was this past summer. I'm trying to remember when those photos were, but I like to change up the profile picture. I try to make it at least every 3 to 5 years, just because I'm getting older and it's showing. So I want the youngest version of myself at all times presented.
I totally get that. Yeah, she's always been really good, and I understand the two of y'all have had like a friendship going on for years now, right?
Too long. We met shooting a wedding back in 2000, and I want to say 19. We both went to school at Troy. We both were in the photo thing. I chose to do the video route. Silly me. So much more gear. But, so we've kept that friendship for quite over, I guess that's 5 or 6 years now. And, you know, we stay in touch. She's killing it. She's way bigger than I'll probably ever be my entire career. But no, she's incredible.
Yeah, she also one of her really good friends, Ashton Bree is what she goes by.
Yeah.
Ashton married my most recent coworker, Cole Peavy.
Yep.
And so I got to know Ashton through Cole, and dude, that's just like a whole huge collective powerhouse whenever it comes to creatives there.
My long lost cousin shares the last name as me, but I have no idea where the relation is. But there probably is relation somewhere, but I haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah, I guess we should say that to the audience is Ashton Wilhite is her maiden name, but she always went by Ashton Bree on Instagram. So
yeah, Wilhite's not something to just flex about.
That's true. Such a you got to hide it.
Yeah, you really do. You you really do. It'll come out and bite you. Nah.
Well, I thought the pictures turned out good.
Well, thank you. I tried to suck in just a little bit.
The coat always helps. That's why you always see me in a hoodie.
Yep. So. Yep. I'm the same way. That's why the shot is from about here up, because
there you go.
Yep. No. Well, cool.
Gotta hide it.
Look at that next slide.
I know, man. It's so I wanna ask you, why in the world did you agree to do this podcast that first time? And what were I mean, obviously you're a kind person. I think most people would agree with that. And so that's probably really you just too nice to say no.
Yes, absolutely. All the time. But no, I would have done it anyways. I kick myself all the time for being a yes person. I will say yes to literally just about 99% of things. So that was me saying yes. I'm a people pleaser in nature. So, I had to say yes to it because, well, one, you don't ever get asked to be on a podcast. At least me. I love podcasts. I listen to them all the time, but you never get the opportunity to be on one, or you never have the energy to create one yourself. So that's why I respect you for doing that, and that's why I decided to be on.
Well, speaking of creating one yourself, you have been a part of creating a podcast, and have done it a few episodes at least that I've seen and heard.
Is this the one with Harrison and I?
Yeah, oh, yeah. I'm like, what's happened with that? What was the goal there? I mean, is it just the time commitment to really being able to do that?
Well, yes. So the slide that you're seeing right now is our old office. I miss that office dearly. It had such a great view. Our rent was dirt cheap. And you got to share it with like your best friend, Harrison. And he, we sat in the office one day, we just started talking and we're like, well, why aren't these conversations, a podcast? Because I feel like it'd be great. So we buckled down and I think we went too hard in the first couple of episodes. Well, there's only been 2 that have been recorded. Yeah. One was with Dan and the other was Cedar, which you've had them on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great production of a podcast. It's now just living on my server. Literally hasn't been seen since we recorded it. It taken about 1 terabyte worth of server space. You know why? Because we decided to shoot it on 5 cameras. I'm pretty sure 2 of those were Reds. So, yeah. Anyways, I think it's the time commitment, going back to the original question.
Yeah.
Editing, as cool as all these different plugins and stuff, Harrison and I are so detail oriented in the way that if we publish something, we want it to be exactly how we want it to. And that kind of creates a perfectionist mentality. So we were too perfect, really. It was too perfect to put together. So no, yeah. I'm just kidding.
You can be your own worst enemy and your own worst critic with this kind of stuff. I've felt the same way a lot of times, but I think my biggest starting point was similar to what you were saying. I was having incredible conversations with people, and you were one of those people. I talked to you multiple times before we ever did the actual episode together, and I felt like these conversations should be recorded. The information that people have to share, the sort of wisdom and truth of just experience alone was just incredible. And not to mention just great people to highlight and great work being done. And so I was thankful to be able, but I totally respect the grind that it takes to do this kind of stuff and to do it at a level that people like yourself and me
would say, "Oh man, that sounded great. It was great content, but also it looked really good." Because we are often very critical of things that don't look very good.
Very critical.
Yeah.
So no, that's why I respect your hustle, is because the secret to most productions really is, or at least self-made productions, is just getting it out there, pushing publish, pushing export. That's the biggest hurdle that I have found to exist when it comes to stuff like that, like creating your own content. That's why making content for other people is easy because they do that part. But actually hitting publish yourself and knowing that is your brand, your image, that's quite difficult. You'll get into a perfectionist mindset.
I do want to talk about that very thing because I feel like your content, first of all, Birmingham Creative, such a great brand. It looks really great.
SEO is fantastic, by the way.
I can only imagine. They're like,
Brian,
Birmingham Video Production.
No, they don't even do that. No. The best part is that other advertising and other marketing agencies have to run ads above me because I show up first every single time when someone shows. Like, you Google Birmingham Creative, and I can guarantee you there's going to be an ad above mine because they can't beat that SEO. Well, you might have ads off.
I think I've looked you up probably enough to where you're going to populate the top.
That's fair. But normally there's an advertising
you
or
populate
marketing.
The majority of the top posts here.
Well, I guess that's good. But no. But anyways, I've seen countless marketing agencies running ads above it because it's such good SEO.
That's awesome. Well, props to you on the brand, but also the work that's gone on behind the brand, because I think all of your work looks incredible. What I really want to pay respect to, though, is that grind of behind the scenes stuff that you've been putting out over the last year, especially. I feel like 2024 for you was a big year of behind the scenes. What's that been like for you, and what helped you the most, sort of, I guess, accomplish that?
So there's a couple of things. One, because I don't actually make real content, the content's already being made in and of itself when you go and do work. So posting behind the scenes is one of the easiest things you can do. Just take out your phone while you're sitting there. Usually I'm doing talking head interviews, so I have all the time in the world to pull out my phone and take a couple snaps. This is what I'm doing. I think it also gives your prospective clients a firsthand look into what it would be like working with you, and showing the level of production value that you bring to the table. I think that's huge. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why companies reach out to me and want to hire Birmingham Creative, is because they're seeing the level of detail within the behind the scenes photos. So if they're seeing that, imagine what the actual production will be. One, clients don't really, they do hire you for a creative video. They hire you for a creative look, but they're also hiring you for like relationships. They're hiring you for, precision. Like, can you actually execute their marketing goal and objective? Like, see, I'm going on a rant here, but
no.
But they want to see that you are bringing value, and especially the value that you quote them, to the table. And I think behind the scenes photos is a great look to show that.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned the idea of bringing out your phone. I mean, here we are again, like huge critics of our own work, and I'm sure of the work of others, just because we do have that critical eye for things, just being creatives. But do you find it troublesome at times? Like, did you initially want to bring out your, FX?
Sure.
I guess for you, I don't know what not an FX. You would have been on the A7 IV at one point. Then you did the R5 whatever.
So if you scroll down on the Birmingham Creative feed, there are a couple of shots shot on an actual mirrorless camera. I'm trying to think. I mean, I'm talking about like way down. Don't go too far.
Okay.
But,
all right. Yeah.
But yeah, so you see like the picture of the red, like you see. Of course, that was shot on a mirrorless camera.
Right.
But as time goes on, iPhone technology has just gotten outstanding. I mean,
all of these were shot on a phone, probably.
Yeah, those were shot on a phone. And I think the reason why a lot of companies don't see a big return on investment with high quality video production, and this is one of my rants that I tell people all the time, is because it's not personal. They didn't just take out their phone and shoot something. Like the reels that we engage with, the reels that we watch are the reels that people have shot on their iPhone. No, I mean, it's hard to relate when something is being produced in a very cinematic quality. Like as soon as you see that depth of field, we're like, oh, that was produced. I'm not going to say fake, but it was highly planned and executed. Versus, I'm going to pull out this phone, shoot it real quick. There's no way I could have planned and shot, an actual client. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think the idea that you're saying is the iPhone seems more genuine.
Exactly. It's authentic.
And authentic, genuine. Like those are things that we want when people, especially people that are looking for people to work with, a service that's being provided that's going to come with a personality. They want a little bit of that authentic experience, and they want to see what it's really like to be there. Not like you're saying, some produced version of what it's like to be there. So
exactly. No, that's, and not saying that you won't receive a return on investment with high quality video production, but when it comes to like the everyday social media, they want to see authenticity. They want to see stuff that I want to say almost spontaneous content. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like just something that I pulled out my phone and shot. Now, if it's a TV commercial, or if it's something that's, going to be seen by the thousands, and if you're going to produce it, if it's a structured message, of course you want high quality video production. But just on a day-to-day, I've just found that iPhone photos just work flawlessly. I mean, edit them, make them look good, but at the end of the day, they can tell whether it was still shot on, most of the time, shot on a phone with authenticity, or if it was high produced and not fake, but just structured very well. But recently, I'm looking at the feed now, I have hired a behind the scenes photographer on a couple of times.
Yeah.
That's cool for website content, I think. I think that's why I initially hired that, because I just needed stuff to put on the website. Like I said, for like a long form publication, like not long form publication, but I'm trying to think of the word for it. A more established piece of, that's not what I'm saying. You're gonna have to cut something.
I feel like it's sort of like a long term. Like
long
this is
term
something that's going to be
what I was going with. I'm blanking over here, but
you're good.
A long term piece of content needs to be high produced, because it's evergreen. Like you want to be able to use that piece of content forever. So that's why for like bigger shoots, I've decided to hire a behind the scenes photographer, because I know that I will use that in some kind of advertising or marketing piece in the future. So that's why some of those photos in the most recent part of the feed are higher produced.
Yeah. Well, it looks like you got some really great opportunities and work that you've secured for yourself that definitely I would have wanted to have higher quality images. I mean, the work you did with Samsung, the thing you did with, I can't remember this guy's name.
Tony Hale. What a
Tony
great guy.
Hale, yeah.
He lives in Birmingham. He's a great guy. Emmy award-winning actor. I mean, he is a class act. That shoot was fun. It was a good
This
time.
looked like a really cool opportunity, and this was like live, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't live, but it was produced almost in a live stance. And I don't know if you want me to even talk about that shoot.
You're welcome to, yeah.
But the Gregory brothers, big shout out to them, old YouTube channel. I don't know if you've seen the video, Hide Your Kids, Hide Your Wife.
Yeah,
So those same people, the hit song Corn, like it's corn, big lumping up. Same people, like they make, their thing is they make viral content, and that everybody can say that they do that, but they genuinely do it. Like they make those catchy songs or whatever. So then if I stand corrected on this structure, the New York Times hired the Gregory brothers to produce a parody video of the vice presidential debate. In real time, we recorded everything as the debate was happening. So we were watching and making sure, and the whole bit was Tony was the moderator, the guest moderator in this debate. And so of course, beforehand, we recorded a whole bunch of reactions, not knowing what the debate would hold. And then once we watched the debate in real time, had pizza, it was a good time. And after the debate, the writers went in there for an hour. We sat around, of course, as cameramen, not knowing what creative idea to do, but we're just there to push record. So they were going. And what was unfortunate about that debate, they probably won't tell you this, but I'll tell you this. It was a boring debate. I mean, there was nothing good that happened as far as viral moments. I mean, the previous debate, when Trump said eating the dogs, like,
right.
I mean, you can really hit home with content with that, but nothing.
That's
really...
another viral song made from that,
right? Exactly. So, anyways, that was a fun shoot, and then we were up till about 3 a.m. recording stuff with Tony. And then I uploaded it in real time as we were shooting. So we'd shoot a couple clips. I'd offload it, throw it into the drive, and then I would just keep rotating cards. And in real time, they had editors in Brooklyn editing the footage, and then it was published the next day, I think at around 4 p.m. So
that is crazy.
And it was a 9-minute, or I think it was 8 or 9 minutes of video. So it was a cool shoot. And they hired us locally. They literally Googled Birmingham video production. And this is where it ties back. And so I get that email in my inbox, and I'm like, yeah, of course I'll do this. This is awesome. They looked for a green screen, and because Tony lived in Birmingham, that's why they wanted to shoot it remotely and then upload the footage. So it was quite a production. So
that sounds awesome, man. I know that the thing at Samsung was a live stream you did. That was really a cool opportunity. It looked like
that was quite stressful. The Samsung one was through a advertising agency called Socially In.
Yeah.
And they wanted just the corporate look of video production, all live. They wanted 3 camera angles. That was stressful enough in itself. And they wanted it switched on the spot, of course. And I mean, I checked like 6 bags worth of stuff. And we set all of that up in 45 minutes.
Yeah. That's the tough part. I mean, because if one little thing goes wrong, live streaming, people that have never done it before don't understand the kind of challenges that are associated with that, things that you have no control over. And not to mention like hardwire all of your equipment, or if you do wireless, like there's all those limitations that you run into.
Yeah.
And even like any kind of cable that suddenly wigs out on you, suddenly you lose that one. You got to have 2 or 3 extra.
I brought backups of everything.
Yeah.
And the best part about the whole thing, you're thinking Samsung, you're thinking technology company. The last thing that you would possibly think that could go wrong is the internet.
That's true. Yeah.
Guess what, Brian?
No, don't tell me their internet crashed out.
They gave me an Ethernet cable, which thank goodness I brought my own, because that was one of the things that was on my checklist. I was like, if they don't have an Ethernet cable, I need to have one. They gave me an Ethernet cable, plugged it in, nothing. Absolutely. So I was like, well, this can't be good. I mean, I saw where it was plugged in at, so I unplugged theirs, plugged in mine, flawless. Okay. They gave me a bad Ethernet cable. Of course they did.
Yeah. I mean, it's just Ethernet those things cables go bad easily to some degree.
Right. It's just those things that you have to think about. I think that's why I've been successful so far in my career, is because I think of impending doom. Like, what is the thing that's going to go out on me at any given time, and I'm going to have a backup for it. I think that's my anxiety that just plays. I mean, it's a good thing and a bad thing, but mostly a good thing, because I'm thinking about these things ahead, like Ethernet cable. And then I was like, well, okay, speedtest.net. Click. Brian, would you like to guess the speed at Samsung headquarters? At Samsung headquarters, hardwired.
I'm afraid it's going to be sub 10. It shouldn't be.
No. You're thinking too much impending doom. It was. I think up was about 30.
Okay.
Which was not bad.
No, I've streamed. I mean, ideally, you want to be closer to like. I mean, right now, I just switched over to fiber, and I'm getting like 100 to 500 upload. You know, it's incredible. But yeah.
No, you'd think at a technology company that that you'd have fast internet. But I mean that could have been any variable that had been wrong. So I don't want to talk too much, slack on Samsung. But it's just those things you have to think about. And so I was originally planning on sending a 1080p signal, but I didn't feel confident after the Ethernet and after the internet speed. I was like, well, I'm gonna drop it down to 720 because I don't feel good about this. As far as consistency, because if Samsung's live stream goes out, that's a bad look, especially on a Fortune 500 probably Fortune 100 company, to be quite honest with you. So if their live stream goes out, that's a really bad look. So it's just those things that you have to think about in order to make a successful production. But we did have some problems. The one thing that did give us the most problem was teleprompters. I've never had good luck with teleprompters.
Yeah, I've only used them a few times, and it's always been finicky.
Yep, and that's the correct word for it. And I was using one that was connected to my phone, and it was chaos. But we made it happen. It worked. Everything went great. Besides Delta spilling out 2 Pelican cases on the tarmac. So that was a fun experience, but it's just production life. It is what it is.
Yeah. The packing alone sounds terrible for a trip like that. I just packed for my first solo flight that I ended up doing, where I say solo flight, where I was traveling by myself as the only camera operator guy, and I had to bring a key light, a boom mic. I brought a sandbag because I'm I don't like relying on. I did. I brought a 15-pound sandbag with me because I'm I didn't want. It was a rolling C stand, and I'm I just don't want it to not be stable. And so
we used a backpack because we were already hitting limits. We were already hitting a lot of weight limits. So I respect you for bringing I didn't bring C stands. I brought just plastic cheap stands because we couldn't have lugged 5 C stands to this set, especially with such a quick setup. Those things are heavy, and thank goodness I checked my cart. I brought the cart along with me. We would have been pretty out of luck if I didn't.
Yeah, you wouldn't have made it up there in time to get it set up, I don't think, if you would have done that.
No, certainly not. With how heavy that equipment is. So that was also the logistical challenge, was being lightweight and nimble throughout that whole experience. So, anyways, that was a fun shoot.
Well, let me ask about this. Speaking of fun shoots, man. Yeah, let's talk about Ride On. I want to know I mean, first of all, talk about what it is in general, but then I also want to know, give us status, give us an update on what where this is at.
The release date of November 2024 certainly didn't happen. Not by a long shot. Remember how I was saying perfectionist is a good thing, but also a bad thing?
Yeah.
This is a really prime example of being perfect. Holy cow. I mean, I'm talking about my computer is just...
They're lighting you up, man.
They're lighting... Can you hear that?
That's that return on SEO right there.
Right, right.
I'm just saying, you're getting those messages. I can just barely hear it. So.
Oh, my fault.
No, you're good.
No, Ride On is a short film that my friend and I, Jonathan Skaggs, and I produced. It is just a short, because I in my 10-year career have never produced something that I was, I'm not going to say I was proud of, but one that I personally produced in... What's the best way? Okay, here we go. In my 10-year career, I've never published something that I wanted to actually produce. As far as narrative films go, I don't do a lot of narrative films, so I wanted to get my hands dirty and actually figure this thing out. And so I reached out to my buddy Jonathan Skaggs. We went and got Mexican, and we were talking about it, and he goes, "I have the perfect story for this." And I was like, "Oh boy." And I'm thinking, this is my first short film. I told Jonathan, I said, I want something simple.
You did not go simple.
2 weeks later, no. It was at least 4 or 5 months later. He hands me this script. I'm reading the script. Set in the 70s. Oh boy.
A period piece is not a good one to start with,
man. No. All you had to say was period piece. And I was like, oh no. And it was like, okay. And And I keep reading, it's like 6 classic cars. And I was like, oh no. I was like, this is going to be impossible to produce. So anyways, I read the script, but it's perfect. Like, the story is so good. And the whole story, the whole premise is about his dad. And his dad took a road trip across the country and experienced quite a few things that are worth telling the tale in short form film, which is really fun. So I as soon as I saw the script, I was like, okay, how are we going to pull this story off? It's a period piece set in the 70s. And then it kind of clicked. Most of my connections are from Troy. I have a lot of connections in Troy because I went to school there. And one of my buddies who was in the same fraternity with me, his dad collects classic cars.
That's convenient.
And so one of the only reasons why we shot in Troy, one, the town looks old. So it kind of sets the stage a little bit as far as the 70s go. And then he had 3 classic cars, so that left me with finding 3 others, and which we did. It was quite tight. But we made it work. So we had I may be getting the years wrong on these cars, but it is what it is. We had a 67 Chevy, which is that red one. Yeah. I think it's a Bel Air. I couldn't tell you exactly what it is. And then we had a 69 a 57 Chevy. I could be getting these years totally completely wrong.
Hey, say it with confidence.
A 69 Mustang, which, God, that was a beautiful vehicle. And then what else and an 80-something, what's the car? It literally just lost. The one with the odd-looking trunk. God, hold on.
Odd-looking trunk.
Here. I've got it's a anyways, we had 6 classic cars, and
of course you did.
It was a fun production. It was 3 days, about 12 hours a day. 2 of those days were in Troy. The last one was in Birmingham, just basically getting pickup shots of what we didn't really get in Troy. We had, I think it was a cast of 7, a crew of 5. So lodging and was quite a challenge, especially when you're 2 hours away from your home. But we made it happen, and it was a fun production. The whole film, which I have it pulled up right here, is kind of what I'm doing at this current moment. I'm doing the color grade on it, but the whole film is roughly 25 minutes long. And so I was thinking initially when this whole thing happened, I was like, this can't be more than 5 minutes long, Jonathan. It cannot be more than 5 minutes. And then I read the script. It was 17 pages. And I was like, that's tough. And in film world, this is a rough estimate. Usually 1 page of script is about a minute's worth of video, the rough estimate.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is going to be 17 minutes long. And then I read like montage here, B-roll of this here. And I was like, oh no, this is going to be like 25 minutes, 30 minutes long. This is a whole TV series, a TV episode. So really you could put this as a pilot for something if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But it's a really cool piece, and big shout out to the whole cast and crew. My personal goal is for this to be released in March. That's when I'm shooting for. It's gotten busy around here, but I would love to see this because we want to start submitting it to festivals and such because I've never done that before. So
yeah. Well, the behind the scenes stuff I have seen looks beautiful. Even I think you've put out maybe even a couple of the clips from it. But it looks really good.
Well, thank you.
The people behind it seems like everybody's. You knew the right people to contact and bring in. So props.
It was. Thank you. It was a talented cast, a talented crew. My buddy Trey Walker, big shout out to him. Have you done a podcast with Trey yet?
I have.
Yeah,
Mud Films.
Yeah,
I just put out.
Did you?
I just put out the one with what's his partner?
Is it Garrett?
Garrett Lee. Yeah, I just put out his 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. No, what a talented crew. But I told Trey loves filmmaking, and that's just his passion is narrative filmmaking, and you can tell it too because I've been on one of his short film sets, and he just has an eye, and he has gear, a lot of gear. And so
that's helpful. That's definitely helpful.
The final shot of this piece, and I wish I could share it. I was like, Trey, I really want the camera to like jib up. He says, well, I have a jib. I said, where? He says, in the van. And I was like, what do you mean you have a jib? And so he pulls out this 10-foot jib, and I was like, sweet. It's the production wouldn't have happened without Trey at all, period, end of story. Like the big 12x12 that you see in that third picture, that was not mine. I didn't even think about that. So
you're just going to use a floppy, right?
Yeah.
Just handhold a floppy.
The thought process was just use natural light because that would look the most natural. Like whenever you do the plates, the green screen,
right?
And the reason why it's taken so long to get this out is the comping with all the green screen stuff. That was, I could have either mounted cameras on very, very valued classic cars, and then it would have extended the production by at least another week. Or we can just do green screen, not worry about driving around, not worrying about, all the other logistics that go behind it, and just comp it in later and all the works later. Well, now we've hit later, and that's quite difficult to execute. But it's coming along, and it looks great, and I'm super proud of the whole team because it's a good piece, and I can't wait to share it.
That's awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it, definitely. But props to you on just the work that's gone into this. And I know it's a passion project. So not only the work, but the expense and the time and the effort and the sleepless nights probably.
We certainly went over budget by a lot. Like I think we actually tripled the budget that we were going to do. Partly due because of me. I did break one of Air 7 Media's V-mount chargers that were $1,000, so that was fun. In the process of making this film, trying to think of some other crazy expenses that I didn't foresee coming, but it certainly
Aaron
happened.
Spigner he's a great guy and very willing to lend out his stuff.
Well,
or at least
most of the stuff was
used.
rented from Air 7. We had a production monitor, like he provided us. Thank goodness we had his V mounts, or we wouldn't have been able to shoot anything because I didn't realize how taxing shooting a 12-hour day would be with like battery charging. I didn't even take that into account because on most of my productions I'm not even I don't have the camera on the whole day, right? But stuff like this, you have the camera on the whole day, so I didn't even think about that. So anyways, Air 7. Big shout out to, I actually saw him this morning. He was dropping off gear for me. And so just a guy, but it's a fun production. It was a fun production.
Yeah. Well, props to you. Let's move on. Well, we talked about this already, so I forgot what all I've put in this. Technically, I prepared these slides when we were originally going to meet. I think, did you have a dog that got sick? Was that what happened?
Yes. So dogs apparently can
apparently.
Well, we didn't know. I mean, this dog was, long story short, the dog was shaking like for weeks. And we went to the vet once. They said, just here's some probiotics, it'll fix her. Then we went again, and they're like, this is this, and obviously it wasn't the case. And we narrowed it down to self-diagnosed, but turned out to be a successful self-diagnose. It was her spinal. It was like something with her spine, like her back, because we saw her hobbling eventually, like what was afraid. Then we thought she was just afraid of the couch. So, but it's because she couldn't jump. So anyways, dogs are, gotta love them, but man, they can be expensive.
Yeah. So y'all, I mean, she's fine now?
Oh yeah, all good.
Okay.
All good. Hopefully, golly.
Yeah.
I sure hope so.
Hey, I've had 2 beagles that have always been like, those have been house pets for us.
Yeah.
Our first, I mean, I think Bailey we got when we first got married, and then a year later we got Abby. those were our two beagles, and I had to put both of them down, at different times. And oh my gosh, man! I mean, my vet literally held me.
I bet
with the first one, it was so awful.
I bet. No, it's a man's best friend. Like, I mean,
yeah, it's a tough decision to make whenever you have to finally make that. And now we've got this mutt. She's literally like a terrier mutt. I always tell people she looks like Tramp from Lady and the Tramp.
That's awesome.
And she's like all black with some white and gray in her. But her name's Debbie, if that says anything about how I have such little control over naming of our dogs, Abby, Bailey, and Debbie.
Debbie,
yep. Yeah.
Dogs are great, but sometimes, they prohibit me from doing actual things.
I get that. Well, excuse me if I forgot what was in the slides, considering we had to reschedule.
That's all right. It was my fault. And my
That's true. So. Speaking of your fault, we also need to acknowledge this.
Goodness. Oh, thank goodness.
I mean, I want to know, like, I mean, you left what you said at the time was like, or what you had said previously in the last episode. I remind you that you would never sell your FX3 because the FX3 was the best camera for the kind of stuff that you do. And then immediately you sold your FX3. And then you went and bought your precious red, which obviously you would never sell a red.
No.
And now you've sold your red. And I think you're back to Canon now.
Brian, I don't make great financial decisions. I don't make good decisions hardly ever. And ironically, this past weekend, not only did I work with one FX3, I worked with 8 FX3s. So it really, thank goodness I've had the experience. But
that's true.
And then I was reminded how great of a system that was, and how light, how easy, how reliable it was. Yeah, no, it was great. It was a great game.
Yeah. No, I will say this though. I mean, that's probably a huge asset to have you on set for anybody. Is you can come in, and if it's Sony, you've got it. If it's Red, you've got it. If it's Canon, you've got it. You know all of at least the main video production, camera bodies that most people around here would be using. So props to you on that.
They're all tools. Like, it doesn't matter which brand you go. They're all good. I mean, I probably said this last time, but it's just a preference thing. Only reason why I switched to Canon now is because I made all the investment in the lenses when I went to Red. Like, I used all Canon lenses. So I was like, well, I can either start back over with the Sonys, or I can just dive into Canon. And it doesn't matter at the end of the day, because they all do the same thing. Just different quirks about each and every one of them. So,
which is your main camera now?
So the main camera is the C400. I love that thing. That thing it's bulky. It reminds me a lot, and I really get nostalgic. It reminds me a lot about my FX6. Yeah. It functions as, a pure documentary running gun filmmaking solution. That's how it's designed. So going to that has been quite nice. And what I've come to appreciate is good color straight out of camera. Just throw on a color space transform in DaVinci, or throw on a correction LUT in Premiere, or whatever you're using, and send it off. Because for me, color correction is one of those things where the law of diminishing returns really takes place. Like, you can spend 8 hours, but the last 6 hours that you did on that color correction, no one's going to notice. Not no one, but the average viewer is not going to notice. So I've just come to appreciate good color out of camera. That's my thing.
It's so funny, you in conjunction to Harrison on that very point. You're like color, like you transform it, color space transform, and then you're like done. And he's over there probably like 8 hours later, finally got the tint shift right. Yeah.
No, his is even more bizarre than that. It's like the shadow I don't even know the settings of color correction. I just know how to convert it to Rec 709 and publish it. That's all I know how to do.
Well, and I think the beauty of it is that both of y'all have extremely successful careers in this stuff, and y'all both are killing it. So even though y'all are polar opposites in that arena, at least.
I think that's what makes us a really good team, is I will think not. I will think very logistically and think very, all right, what's the bottom line of our production? Like, what is the story we're trying to capture? Harrison's like, what's the most creative shot we can capture? And that's not my thing. He recently brought me on a trip to Utah, and my whole shtick was I was the best grip. The best grip and I was just thinking of, like, because he wouldn't have thought about these different ways to, like, car rig things or, whatever. And that was his job was to get the creative shots and tell me his vision, and I was to help execute that vision. So, anyways,
I like
a dynamic duo. The
visionary and the practical.
Right. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, that's exactly it. But yeah.
All right. Speaking
well, would you look at that? Wow.
Yeah. I forgot too. I'm just as surprised as you are. So yeah.
Well, there we go.
Something that you did mention in the last podcast that I really took out. I think I even titled it this idea that it was collaboration versus competition. Or no, I'm sorry, I titled it collaborate and succeed. But I think that's a really interesting perspective that you have on this, as well as one I think that a lot of people share, but it was just really neat the way that you put it into words. But this idea of like really finding success through collaboration versus this idea of, like going at war against your competitors around you. Talk about that a little bit, especially in this Birmingham scene that we both have a lot of mutual respect for. How do you see that being true even more so for you now?
Yeah, I think you get the best ideas by rebounding off of others. Not only that, but I've always heard this quote. I don't know who it's from, and I know it's from somebody because I'm not original enough to think of this quote. The riches are in the niches or however you say it. So
right.
The best way you can succeed, and I'm guilty of this because I don't do this, is to hone down onto one specific thing, one specific genre of videos, and then excel at it. And you get bonus points if this is a genre you're truly passionate about. So Harrison is truly passionate about doing stuff that's adventurous. I'm not. I'm truly passionate about getting the job done, and that's why we make a great team. No, I think the main thing is to just find the videos that you like to make and just excel at them. And then the other people come in to help with the downfalls that they're facing. So I think that's the best way to collaborate, and why collaborating is way better. I mean, I said this before and I'll say it again. The supply and demand of video production is unmatched. We watch videos every single day. Who's making those videos? Well, it's a very limited number of people. You think a lot of people, when you're in the space long enough, you think, oh, everybody shoots video, everybody makes content, but not really. You'd be surprised. So if you hone in, where am I going with this? If you find your people and you rebound ideas off others, you are now collaboratively. That wasn't a word. Was
collaboratively? Yeah, collaboratively. Yeah.
You are now the supply to meet that demand. So that's kind of how I look at it. I don't know if that made any sense whatsoever, but
well, I'll sort of piggyback on that. I think just watching, watching you and Harrison work together has been really inspiring, because even whenever I talked with you, I think whenever I came by your office one day and talked with you or something, you talked about how a lot of times y'all do jobs for each other, and you don't necessarily like, okay, I worked for you this many hours, so you owe me this much. It's more of this just general understanding that if I need you, I'm gonna be there, or you're gonna be there for me if you need me. So
that's the beauty of freelance. Like, I can either pay cash for somebody to be on set, or return an IOU for somebody else in the future. So Harrison and I have this running joke that we have a standing IOU for each other, and we're just down to be on each other's projects for most of the time free, just to help each other out creating stuff, because at the end of the day, you get to pocket the money that the client pays because you're not having to hire other people out. And at the end, you get to work with, your best friends. I mean, how often can people say that,
Right. Yeah.
So it pays to have relationships in the end in this industry, I think.
Yeah. Well, even if it's paid, I guess, collaboration, I can see that. I've got this guy, Tyler, that I'm working with right now that does, he's doing animated graphics for me. I couldn't do animated graphics. I don't have that kind of skill. But now I've got a partner that I can bring in when needed. And now I've got my company can now provide more services because I've got these collaborations, and I think that kind of stuff is important, but also it's just nice to have friends that you can call on and say, hey, what do you think about this? Just to bounce ideas off of. And when you get in a spot, a tight spot that you need help, you've got those people to call on. So that's really cool. And again, I think the competition out there, like you said, there's so many jobs available. There's not a need for us to literally compete with each other. Although I'm sure there are times where friends do end up on job pitches
that you would want to be
against each other.
Yeah, the jobs that you want to be on. But at the end of the day, as an entrepreneur, I have to look at that not in envy, but what did the client see in them that they didn't see in me, and then improve on that aspect. Whether that was communication, whether that was being more creative, whether that was, it could be anything. But I've always, you got to take those and improve. You can't just envy the other person for getting that specific job.
Yeah. You're probably hearing my dog, Debbie, barking now in the background.
Debbie just needs to be heard. Debbie wants to be on the podcast, Deborah. And I appreciate that.
All right, let me ask you one area of growth since we've last talked. I was pulling it up earlier. This was over a year ago now. I think it was actually right at a year ago. Let me pull this video up. It was...
RIP to that.
Actually, January 7th, 2024. So it was just over a year ago that we did this. I know, isn't that's crazy?
That's kind of nuts.
I didn't even celebrate the anniversary, man.
Hey,
I should have celebrated it.
That's all right. But that's all right. We'll get them next time. I'll see you on January 4th, 2026.
There you go. So what would you say in this last year? What would you say has been an area of growth for you personally, for you as a company, anything like that?
That's a tough question. I'm going to say scaling. Scaling is an area of growth for me that are what I have grown the most in the past year. I used to take on productions where it was myself and maybe another person, but this past year I've done a whole lot more bigger productions with bigger crew. I think one that really stands out was we did a production. I think it was a 4-person crew, and then delegating tasks to 3 other people was something that was very, very abnormal for me because I just don't do good delegating. So I think delegation and scaling are the big 2 growth aspects of this past year.
Yeah. So, what's the hardest part of that for you? Or what was the most difficult part?
It's the perfectionist mentality. I've always grown up to think that, well, if I think I can do it better, why not I just do it? Sometimes you can't. Literally, you can't. You don't have the bandwidth. You don't have the threshold to do that. So you have to. I think it's the trust factor. I think that's also plays a big part in it. Trusting that the other person that you have brought onto the team to do the job correctly, and that takes leadership. That takes training. That takes being a good example in the sense of leadership, I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. I think every company, I know my own company, I'm looking ahead now and thinking I can handle this much work.
Sure.
But at some point, I guess the hope is that the amount of work would exceed what you alone are able to do. Mm-hmm. And so you've got to be able to scale. You've got to be able to delegate at some point. So,
without a single doubt.
those are some growing pains at times, definitely.
I mean, I've been doing this for right around 8 years, video production full time, and 8 years, finally 8 years in, I'm getting to productions bigger than myself and another person. So it takes time. Like it takes, putting your foot down and actually doing it. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. All right.
Man, that's good. That's so good.
I wish I had video of it. That's the only thing I feel like's missing.
I know where it's at, but I'm not going to give it to you.
Oh,
at all.
come on. Come on. I could just play it right now over this part. Just like we could end the conversation with you at the end of this video.
What a great
Think about it. Think about it. I
was.
could end the episode if you decide to share it. I'll just, at the very end, just for those who stayed around and watched the whole thing, they deserve something like that.
I totally agree. If they stayed this long, they deserve this piece of Aaron Wilhite history.
So I'm just saying, if you're willing to share it with me, I'll put it on the end of this episode.
Actually, it's funny because it's lost. I actually don't have it at all. There is video. It exists somewhere. Couldn't tell you where it's at.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'll take your word on that.
What exactly do you want to know about this situation here?
Well, tell me about it, first of all, and then answer the question. I'd love your best piece of advice, but let's start with maybe hiding things like this.
Yeah.
Is that your best piece of advice?
Man, did you find that on my Facebook page?
To be honest, man, I don't remember. It's been a little while since I put this together.
It could have been me. It could have been, I don't know, maybe my dad would have posted something like this. Yeah, this was senior year of high school.
You look great.
Thank you. I thought the mustache and the beard it's kind of funny because I couldn't grow one back then, but I got it now.
Yeah, you do.
No, that man, we like super glued that beard onto my chin. I kid you not. It was rough. But that was senior year high school. It was a musical. They thought I was not even interested in this at all, but they thought I was the perfect person to play Buffalo Bill from Annie Get Your Gun in this musical. So that was one of the only times that I was in front of the camera, I guess, if there was a camera there. So
that's great.
Yeah, no, that's, man, that takes me back.
Well, I know last time we talked about your like playing and singing and even voiceover skills that you had done.
No singing here, but yes. Which is funny.
In this you did.
Yeah, I sure did. I had a solo and I was scared to death because singing's just not been my forte.
That's funny.
But here I am in the spotlight. So
literally.
I mean, by the picture you can see it. But no, that was something. I can't believe you found that. But that's not the worst thing of Aaron Wilhite history. So you got to keep digging.
There you go.
You got to keep digging.
2026, baby. We're gonna bring it back around.
I can give you some content.
You'll be the recurring beginning of the year
Thank
interview.
Goodness. This is, you know what? I have to set the bar high somehow. And my senior year high school musical sure does set the bar pretty high.
I agree. All right. So best piece of advice.
These are great questions. I have a lot.
Rattle them off if you want to, or focus on one or two of them.
Best piece of advice, I would say. God, these are such hard questions. You're so good at doing the hard questions. Is there a specific field that you want me to give this advice? Let's
do two. Can we do two?
All right.
Two pieces of advice. Give me one life advice and one like video company advice.
Video company advice and life advice. Start your retirement fund early. Is a great piece of advice. No,
I agree with that.
But start it early.
And then start it earlier than that.
Or your retirement will be like me with depreciating assets surrounding you. So no. Anyways, I'd say best life advice is work-life balance, and that's going to be cliche, but I think it's so true. Over the past couple of years, sorry, let me back up. The first 6 years of video production, I just had this super entrepreneurship mindset to where like it was like the hustle culture. It was like Gary V like spitting off like you need to be working 25 hours out of the day to be successful. And I legitimately thought that for 5 or 6 years. I would just work, and I still do that. I need to preach to the choir here, but it's finding that work-life balance and know that if you run a video production company, sure, people like instant responses, sure, people like fast communication, but know that you are a business. Every single business has business hours. Separate your work life from your personal life. For me, I even if you're thinking about it out of hours, I schedule send, and just to show that I'm going to be focused on work during this set of hours, and I'll be focused on my personal life in this set of hours. So even if I am in my personal life, drafting an email, I'll schedule send it for 8:01 a.m. or whatever it is. So people see that there is a boundary between me personally and me professionally, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest piece of advice I can give to anybody, especially people first starting out with this. Don't separate your personal, because you'll get burnt out.
What's the danger in not doing the scheduled send, do you think?
Great question. If you're sending a message to a client at 9:05 p.m., that means that client now thinks that they can get a hold of you at 9:05 p.m. Mm-hmm. Like it's, and sure, if that's how you want to operate, go for it. But every single business that I know have working hours, have business hours. You're not going to call State Farm or whoever at 9:02 p.m. asking for an updated insurance policy. Like, you're not going to do that. Why? Because they're closed. Like, right. You got to separate the personal and the professional work.
All right. I think that's great. That was a little bit of an overlap, because that was both personal and
I cheated the system. I totally cheated.
Do you want to go ahead and chop that up? That's my two.
That's my personal advice, and it's. Like I said, I'm preaching to the choir because I'm still guilty from doing that time to time. Just overworking. Don't overwork. Like, set 40 hours, because that's a typical work schedule. And then make sure the hours outside of those 40 hours you're spending doing the things that you want to do. That's not work. Yeah. Even if you love video production, or you love video, you love photos, part of this advice is go find something else to do. That doesn't involve that, or you will get burnout. I think that's the best piece of advice. That's personal. Yeah. Video production wise,
specifically video. Something I'm wondering is video production business wise.
Ooh,
do you have any advice in that realm?
Word of mouth is your best form of marketing, hands down. I think I've spent, in my course of my career, it's going to sound a lot, but over 9 years is not, or 8 years, it's not a lot. I think over the course of my entire 8 years of video production, I've spent $1,000 in marketing. Because when companies are hiring you, especially in a B2B relationship, they're hiring you for relationship. They're hiring you because someone else used you, and you now have that good reputation of providing that service for somebody else. So I think that's the best piece of like business marketing advice is word of mouth. Those relationships are your number one asset when it comes to marketing. Other than that, I was talking to somebody else recently, heard a quote, also not my original quote. It couldn't be me to make this quote up. I heard buy nice or buy twice. Which is, it's so true. Because the first 5 years of my career, I cheaped out. Like I cheaped out on the majority of my gear and equipment. And I'm not talking about cameras. I'm talking about like tripods. I'm talking about lens filters. I'm talking about bags. I'm talking about like you name it that's not a camera or a lens. Buy nice. Only because I'm trying to think of a good example, but I've bought the same variable ND filter 7 times because it just breaks. And then finally the 8th time I was like, you know what? I'm going to get a nice ND filter. It hasn't broke since. And if you buy nice, you'll be more likely to keep up with it. So
yeah.
You won't just lose that variable ND filter. You will take it. you will pamper it with everything.
I've heard it. Well, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go for it. I was rambling.
I was gonna say I've heard it talked about with tripods and other like support structures. You really don't want to cheap out on those because those they're gonna outlast your camera. They're
Without
gonna
a doubt.
outlast your lenses. Well, maybe not lenses. Lenses are
same-
one of those things that last forever. But
The first paycheck, I think I said in this last podcast, but it's worth mentioning again. The first paycheck I ever made with video production, I bought a Manfrotto tripod. I'm literally using it right now, 8 years later, sitting right there. So it's, and it hurt too. Like it was like a $400 or $500 tripod. And I mean, at the time I was like, you get a $400 or $500 tripod or a $30 tripod from Walmart. I'm going to have a reliable tripod. But yeah, you're totally right. Buy nice or buy twice. Most recent thing that happened is I keep buying the Neewer combo stands, not the C stands, the combo stands that have like the wheels and they're like the base is shaped as like a tripod.
Yeah.
It booms. I've bought 2 of them. The second one's now broken. Not anything that I've done, just but because of the poor manufacturing behind that piece of equipment. If I would have bought a Matthews combo stand, I would still be using that same one, 3 or 4 years down the road. So, no, buy nice or buy twice is my biggest takeaway also from my career.
Nice.
So, that's
All
my
right.
best piece of advice.
This is always sort of the finale.
Wow. Yeah, this is it. This is good. This is
So,
good.
You like those?
Yeah. No, this is fantastic.
You really have
must have been on my Facebook page.
You have a deep affinity for shorts, I feel like, at times. Because didn't you wear shorts to like a formal occasion, maybe a prom
Yeah, I sure
or
did.
something like that one time?
It was certainly homecoming.
Homecoming.
This was
shorts
this
with
was-
a tie.
Yeah. Do you have
if
that
I
picture?
remember correctly. So
Do you have it?
I don't have it on here. No, it's
Okay.
It's on the last episode. I can pull it up.
Oh yeah, that's right. Please don't.
Because I'm sure I've got the episode pulled up right here. I could move over to it if we needed to.
That's not good. Well,
okay, all right.
No, that's back in high school, and I'm showing my age here. 2014, no, 13. It was when the
That
short
shows your
brand,
youth, by the way.
No, Matt, you think so?
It does in my book.
That's fair.
I was
it
in
was-
high school in the late 90s.
I was born in the late 90s.
I know you were. That hurts a little bit. That's all right, though. That's all right. One day I hope to be like you when I grow up.
Okay. No, the shorts thing back in 2000, maybe it was like 12 or 13. The shorts brand Chubbies became like a really popular thing.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. Probably cool now, but it was really cool back in like high school. And they were cool because they had like they were bold. They were like bright neon orange ones like you saw in the last podcast, or these have the American flag on them. So I thought I was a cool kid, I guess.
Well, and very patriotic here.
Yeah,
cowboy
absolutely.
hat, American flag shorts.
Well,
Are those boots or are those tennis shoes?
So the theme for that year's band, and that was a band picture, was something Americana. And I can't remember what it was, but it was certainly Americana. So I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bring out the American shorts. And that's what I did. That top picture, that was me 3rd grade at a church camp. Yeah. And then that last picture, that was certainly college years.
Right.
Marching band.
Go Trojans.
Go
right? Trojans.
That's right. Fun fact, I got scholarship for being in the band at Troy. That's one of the reasons why I went. Was because of the band program, because it's a pretty higher up band program, at least in the Southeast. So and that college is known for successful people in the music world. So yeah, no, you've really pulled. Who inspires me? Going back to the question.
That's sort of always the ending question. So who inspires you? I'm curious to know, now you've been doing this, this business now for another year. And last time, I think we talked a lot about Harrison. I feel like was who inspired you. That ended up being the next episode that I did was Harrison. But I mean, who inspires you now? I imagine you're still working with Harrison. He probably bores you now. Probably
these are great questions as well. Who inspires me? These are great questions.
They don't seem like great questions if you don't have an answer for them.
I know. I will come up with an answer. It's not who inspires me. I think what inspires me is the ultimate question, because I've never really found inspiration from people, but rather ideas. What inspires me is to be the most successful in my career as I personally can. As my wife says, they can ask for your best, but you can't give them anything more. So I always want to. What inspires me is doing my best and being as successful as I can within my capabilities. I think that's what inspires me the most. I don't think I've ever looked at people for inspiration. I think another big inspiration of mine is being able to have the freedom and flexibility to work, but also have a life outside of work. I think that's what inspires me. And you can't, not saying you can't do that on a typical 9 to 5, but as a freelancer, as a person who owns their own business, I make the hours, and that's what inspires me to keep trying to be successful, is because I get that freedom and flexibility. That's one of the payoffs of doing that. It's a lot of risk. Sometimes you fail, but at the end of the day, if you do it successfully, you end up having that freedom and flexibility that you want. I think that's what inspires me. Yeah. I'm trying to cop out of your question here because I genuinely can't think of it. I think Brian Pope inspires me.
I hope so. Have you met him before? The one that lives in Calera?
Well, yeah, that one. Yeah.
He spells his with an I. He's a really nice guy.
Wait, no, you're actually talking about somebody different.
Yeah, there really is. There's another Brian Pope. We get confused for each other all the time.
That's actually really
you thought you were on his podcast.
No. No, I think when it comes to people who inspire me, I think one of the biggest ones is my grandfather. And my grandfather passed away like 6 years ago. And it's so unfortunate because I was not in that mindset or stage to ask him questions, because he was a photographer for, I don't know, decades. And this past Christmas, my father actually gave me all of his camera gear. Which was super sentimental. I don't think you realize how much that meant to me, but that was a huge boost and inspiration to keep doing what I'm doing, because like I said, he never talked about that career, and I want to be just like him in the way of just putting your feet down. Don't try to boast, or don't try to make a big scene about what you're doing. Just do good work. I think that's the biggest inspiration that I took away from him, is he never talked about it, but apparently he was a legend in the field. So, I mean, I think that's the biggest inspiration as of right now.
That's cool.
So it's cool because I got to, wish I had it with me, but within that whole box of camera stuff, a whole bunch of like 35 millimeter film cameras and medium format film cameras. And at the bottom of the box were a stack of business cards. And seeing that, and I've never seen that before. I mean, in the 27, am I 27 or 20? I can't tell you. Anyways, I've never seen those business cards. So I've always heard that he did that, but seeing that and knowing that he made a successful career for himself just by laying low and doing good work, I think that's who inspires me and what inspires me right now. Are his cameras the ones that you've been shooting?
So
that last, not the one with the snow, but the one before it.
Wait, this one had the snow. So it would have been this one.
That one. So those were shot all on his, and the very last picture is his camera. I went and took out that camera and so my grandparents actually met and if you hold that picture real quick. Oh, there's the business card. Yeah, there it is.
Oh, that's cool.
So my grandparents actually met at the Redmont Hotel, there was an event happening at the time, and they met at this event, and one of the things that I really wanted to do was just take a picture of the hotel, at least the doors of it, just as a tribute. But what's cool is at the bottom of the camera, you can see it's labeled Marion Wilhite, and then it's got his address on there, and it was super cool to get, because I've never seen that. I've heard the myths and the legends of it, but I've never seen it in person until I got that box this past Christmas, and I was like, this is really cool. So yeah, I wish I could have asked him more questions, but I think I mean, it is what it is. But
that's pretty neat, man. I was fortunate enough. My grandfather died when I was young. I was a child. This was on my mom's side, and my grandmother raised so much of us. I mean, we were at her house, me and my cousins, all the times as kids, and in college, I got to do a local history paper. I was doing, I think, an Alabama history class in the college at the collegiate level. And this was like one of my last senior classes. And we were doing like our own research on something local, and it could be anything. And I got to do my grandfather, and it was so amazing to like learn more about him. But even more so, I got to spend so much time with my grandmother, who, like I said, was so instrumental in raising me and my cousins.
Right.
And she and I drove all over Oak Grove, which is where my grandfather's family is from. We drove around to different locations and doing research and everything. And she just talked, and I got voice recordings, video recordings of her. Cool. And then she passed away a few years later, and at her funeral, I got to talk about that research and how
really cool.
Amazing it was to learn about my grandfather. But I said, even through all of that, I learned so much more about my grandmother. And it was neat.
No, that's super cool. And it's the wisdom of the grandparents. I mean, it's really cool. It's really sentimental, and I guess that's who inspires me right now.
That's cool. Well, I like it, man. All right. End with those, I'll tell you this, man. This photo right here, I see your eyes. Like, in so many of the photos I've seen from you. Yeah. Like, even whenever I've met with you in person, like, that's your face still. At least from here to here. You know?
That is my face. Wow, I bet you do, man. That flash was harsh. God,
yeah, it was a little overexposed, but
yeah, without a single doubt. I guess I was in like 4th or 5th grade in that photo. Man, that's something. No, I was definitely in 5th grade. But,
well, Aaron, I really appreciate you coming on here again,
it's always a pleasure.
It's always fun talking with you. Mad respect for you, the company you've created, the quality of work you produce, the reputation that you have in this industry and in this community. And every time I reference the Birmingham creative community, I'm sure I owe you some type of royalty. So just keep adding it to my tab.
That's
right.
But no, I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting to claim that IOU one day.
Please do.
Hey, Brian, remember that one time you just used my company name 100 times? Come help me out on this. Come help me out on this project.
On all 40 plus episodes. So yeah, definitely.
No, it's always a pleasure, man. It's big shout out to you for just making such a good community, man. I've been enjoying. I may not have time to watch all the full episodes, but I love watching the shorts that you create from all of this. Hopefully, there's something, at least one, that's good from this one. We'll see.
It's going to be tough, but I'll see what I can do.
I genuinely believe it is. Yeah.
No, that's actually what's great about doing the shorts is that it's actually really easy because so many people give. The hard part is narrowing it down. Usually, I mean, I've got probably. Gosh, sometimes I'll have 10 or 20 of them, and I'm like, I'm only sharing 3. You know, like I'm only putting 3 out. So
you'll be lucky if you get 3 out of this one, but I'll be impressed.
If nothing else, I'll just put your pictures out there,
and
your reaction to it.
That makes great content.
You can be like, oh no,
that's one of the reasons why I said yes again. This is why I said yes again, is because I wanted to see more old photos of what you could find. Imagine if I actually, user submitted some photos myself.
Yeah.
But
hey, next time, if you got some.
That's right.
Or just put me in touch with your parents, and I'll get pretty much everything.
You should become friends with my dad on Facebook because he's the one that posts all the stuff. So you'll get some incredible content. But anyways.
All right, man. Well, I do appreciate it. Seriously.
It's been a pleasure.